Okay, so we're reaching the end of the Chris Bray book, although we actually finished with what Chris Bray had to say about things a while ago, and now we're getting into the final thing on cube, which is cubing and gammonish positions, which is one of the more difficult topics, and that's the very analytical way to do it. Is very complicated. If any of you have Dirk Shearman's book, The Theory of Backgammon, which I have here, if you can see it, it's an amazing book, not for beginners. You have to be really into this, and he digs into the math, and it's very thorough. And most people, myself included, for the most part, your eyes are going to glaze over when you start going over all the math that he has in that. And I'm actually a professional mathematician of sort. I'm an actuary, but I don't really want to spend my time doing that. So there are other ways to grapple with these issues, and I will be going over some. There's a particularly elegant way that David Presser came up with, and that's what we'll be going to. Those who call earlier discussions on this, we've shown his Pratt method, so I will show his Pratt method and how to adjust for cube score, for match score, and cube decisions. But first, last week we had a tournament on the beach in South Florida, and this position came up, and the score is 7-5. Black at 7, yellow on 5. And so the question here is, at this score, is this a double? And if it is a double, is it a take? Now, fortunately, we have the mastermind behind this decision, and he's going to explain to us why he did what he did. But let me get any thoughts on this. First of all,
well, I'm tempted to double quickly at that score because my opponent can't use the cube, and we're aiming to get a gammon, but it just looks such an easy take. I can't easily see losing my market, so I think I'd hold off.
Yeah. Anyone else? I'll have to say that's kind of what I thought. Does anyone else have a different idea?
Whose turn is it? Whose roll is it?
It's yellow on roll.
Okay.
And so it's their yellow's cube decision. Okay, so that's kind of what I thought about this position, but we have on the session here the person who thought differently, and that's Les. So Les, you doubled this position. What were you thinking when you did this?
Is mindless a correct answer?
No, you don't get away with that.
I really can't answer that in a logical way, Gary. I wish that I could. As you know, I had 7 seconds left on my clock, and the thinking wasn't the priority.
Okay, well,
So,
Les is being modest. That may be true. He did have 7 seconds on the clock, and yes, and I was black, and I was Les's opponent. And my thinking on this was pretty much what Ray's was with this. Yes, this is a very sensitive position for a score, but I didn't think this was a double, and for basically the same reason that Ray did. Basically, you have nothing. Well, what yellow has here is the race, which is important, and it's a big race lead. It's 48 pips, but yellow has no board. And in terms of threats, which is position, race, and threats, some threats are good with the 4 checkers back, but black, we have an anchor and a stacked position, and not much. But the answer is that not only is this a double, it's a pass.
just to pass.
Yeah, it's close, but I didn't think it was fast. I didn't think it was close. But nevertheless, it is. And so this just, the point of going over this is just to underscore the sort of complexity of this and the difficulty in trying to figure these things out, and the extent to which you have to adjust your thinking to the score. So anyway, congratulations to Les on getting this right. With 7 seconds left, that probably helped because he probably thought about it, he probably wouldn't have doubled, but he was right, and he knew that, okay, at this score, 2-way, 4-way, you basically double right away, and that just that knowledge will get you very far. Let me show you.
Actually, Gary, you know, obviously, you know, your play compared to mine is, you know, professional versus intermediate at best, more like a beginner. And I felt like I needed to up the odds to have any chance to win. And that was the main driver. I didn't want to play a bunch of games with you. I wanted to end the match. And I thought that this could lead to a position where I would lose quickly, or maybe gammon you and turn the match around.
Yeah. Well, that's very good thinking. And that's at least intermediate and probably better thinking. Because as it turned out, I eventually did win this game, but it could have gone either way, and I ended up with a back game. And if I don't, there were a couple situations where I basically had to come in and hit Les, or I'm going to get gammoned. So Les' analysis was exactly right. He almost did it. I just got a little bit luckier on the later roll. So, but that's the type of thinking that goes into this. And just to the extent of, I'm going to focus on this score just to highlight it. But let's look at some other scores, or other positions. Let's say yellow was with a 6-4 and makes a 2-point. Black gets a 5-3, 5-2, and does this. Is this a double? Any ideas?
I mean, the reference that I remember is that, at that score for the trailer, the starting position is it would only be like a 7% error to double immediately, right? So you don't really have to improve very much to have a double or be close to it. So I bet this would be.
Yeah, that's exactly right. This is actually a no double. Well, let's actually do it on a plus. But this is very close to a double. And it's all because of the score. So something as innocuous as making the 2-point, and you have the double, or nearly a double when you're 2-way, 4-way. If you have the 3-point, that's a big double. If you have the 4-point, that's a double. And the 5-point is certainly a double. This may get close. Oh wait, okay, it's still a take. Even something like the bar point is a double. So at 2-way, 4-way, anything constructive on your first roll, and you basically have a double. And so that's good to know. Why is this? I don't want to spend a lot of time understanding why, because at least not in detail, but and to go through the mathematics of it would just put everyone to sleep, and I couldn't even get through it without going to sleep on it. So I won't do that. But anyone have any idea of? And Les mentioned it. I think we brought it up, but just to say why why does this matter so much? And I don't want to try to extract it out of everybody, but essentially what Les said was exactly right. You're behind in the match, and one of the things effectively is that when you double a two-way, four-way, your opponent's gammons are meaningless. It doesn't matter whether he gets gammons, whereas your gammons win you the match. So that's a way, there's a concept of the gammon value, and which adds into it. And effectively, when you're behind, your gammon values are much higher. And when you're ahead, your gammon values are less, and your opponent's gammon values are higher. So, and this is the score because the player that's four-way has full gammon value when the cube is turned. Whereas the leader, once the cube is turned, the gammon value is 0. That's often a huge thing. So, having said that, so in general, when you're behind, you're going to want to gammon sooner for the most part, and when you're ahead, you're going to want to be a little more conservative. And I'm sorry, to double. So when you're behind, you're going to double earlier, and when you're ahead, you're going to be more conservative and doubling later. The question is, how much, and how to, how do you make that adjustment? Okay, so there's the traditional way I think of doing this is to say, okay, well, what are your gammon changes, you versus your opponent, and what are your wins, you versus your opponent, and there's some mathematical calculation you can do to tell you that. John O'Hagan tried to explain that to me once, actually a couple times, and I had no idea because in most positions, I don't know what the gammons are, and I don't know what the win percentages are. Now we do know a few. We've looked at holding games and we look at racing games, and we know this. But the gammons there are pretty negligible for the most part. But once you get into more complicated positions, it's also more difficult to figure out what your gammons are. So, but we can dispense with all that and instead look at. What I want to do is look at the Pratt method that we've already gone over and show you how to adjust for that. And so I will show you a table of how to do that. And so the way to read this table is to say, okay, we're four-way, two-away in this example. And we're going to adjust the our Pratt method by 1.5 at four-way, two-away. Now, what does that mean? Well, if you recall the Pratt method, we went through position, race, threats, and gammon potential, and we evaluated position, race, and threat from 0 to 1, and then we evaluated gammon potential 0 to 0.5, and then if we were 2 or better, we double and it's a take. If we're 3 or better, it's a double and a pass. And if it's below 2, then we're going to not double. And that's typical for a money game. And that works reasonably well. And there are obviously there's and we got the position, evaluating the position was fairly easy. Evaluating the race is fairly easy, with a few exceptions. It was the threats that were a little more difficult, and adjusting for gammon potential, that's a little more difficult too. But generally, with a little practice, you could come out pretty well with that. So now, what do I mean by a four-way, two-way? What do we mean by an adjustment? Okay, so what that means is that we're going to a couple ways to look at it. But if we're the sender here at four-way, two-way, we're going to add whatever score we come up with. We're going to add 1.5 to it. So in this position, we're four-way, two-way. you know, what do we have? You know, not much, no race, no board. But we do have some threats. You know, we can hit this guy out here. We've already made a little bit of a prime. We don't ordinarily count that much for on the Pratt, but it's something. And so that, you know, the question is, do we have half for that? Do we have half for threats and half for gammon potential? And the answer is, well, it doesn't take a whole lot to get to that half, to make this a double and a take. And to go back to Les's position. Let me pull it up. You know, here we've got race. That alone puts us in the double at this score. And you know, we have no board, so that doesn't give us anything. But in terms of threats, yeah, you know, for this to be a pass, we're already at 2.5 because we get 1.5 to start with at the 4-way 2-way score. We're 2.5. You know, are the threats and gammon potential there? You know, well, certainly are. We pick safe to back checkers. We've got 10 checkers in the zone, even though they're, you know, they're not well distributed. And that's enough, you know, to get you, you know, over the half that you need to make this a so you know that is you know that's about it, and you know this method is pretty elegant for this sort of thing. Now let's go over some positions, and I'll bring back the table. Oops. To look at different match scores. So here's, in this case, this is the opening, let's see, black opened, yellow rolled double fives, leaving a 2-point, black danced. And now the question is this a double or a pass? Or is it, and is a double, is it take or pass? So just to go over how, first of all, who remembers this position? This is one of those things you should probably, it's easy enough to remember, but it's also good to go through the Pratt procedure because it illustrates it. Who remembers what this is? We're looking at for a money game, unlimited game to start with.
I think it's no double for money, right?
Yeah, this is a no double take. But it's close. Who remembers this one? 4-point.
This small double take.
Yeah, small double take. 5-point is also, oops. Double take, bar point. Keeping it wrong. Also double take. Okay, so now in terms of Pratt, how do we come up with this with Pratt? Where we look at position, we got 0.3, we got 2 points in here, 0.3 and 0.1. There's 0.4. Race, we've got 1 for race. 14 is the cutoff, so we got 1 for race. So we're at 1.4. Threats and gammon potential. Usually we get 0.2, 0.3 for gammon potential. That's 1.7. Threats, we have some threats because black's on the bar, but you know we only have 8 checkers in the zone. Black's open checkers on his 2 points, so you know it doesn't come out to more than 0.2 or 0.3. It puts us just about 2. Which isn't enough, which again is not to double. So it's just under 2, so it's not a double, and it's a take. Now let's change the score to this one, 2-way 4-way, most sensitive score, and bring back our table. And so 2-way, 4-way, we're going to start, and we know that this is a 2. We're going to start at 1.5, so we're going to have 3.5. So what does that mean for the take pass decision? Okay, so we know that 2 is a double and a take. 3 is double and a pass, and now we're at 3.5 because we get a bonus of 1.5 for this score. So what's it going to be? There's going to be double and a pass. Okay, so let's look at different scores now. I've got the different adjustments by the scores. I'll explain. We probably won't go over the star asterisk ones here, the red asterisks. There's a formula that we can use. One of the, I've showed a lot of these tables, and the annoying thing about these tables is that if you have them with you, they're good. You can look them up and you can get the right answer, but you kind of have to memorize the table, and that's really annoying to do because there are a lot of numbers on these tables. So here, the numbers that are shown are numbers that you should probably memorize, but they're not that much. They're not that many. And the ones that have an asterisk on them, there's a formula you can use, which is here, which you can pull out to look at this, and I'll probably go over it next time as to what it is and show you examples of it, so that now you have a table that you can deal with, and also 2-way, 3-way, 3-way, 4-way, 4-way. Those are all kind of neutral scores where there's no real match adjustment per se, at least not in the method that we're talking about, not using the Pratt method. But with the exception of 4-way, 5-way, the adjustments are symmetrical. So 4-way, 3-way, and 3-way, 4-way, it's a symmetrical adjustment of 1.25 going to the trailer. And 5-way, 3-way, it's a 1 adjustment of 1. The one exception is the 5-way, 4-way, in which actually both, whoever has the advantage has a slight adjustment in their favor to double. Okay, but let's go on from that. Let's look at a different score. Let's look at, I'll bring it back. So 4-way, 2-way is the most sensitive score. That's your biggest adjustment. Let's look at 4-way, 3-way. Okay, that adjustment, again, this position is ranked as 2. And now at 4-way, 3-way, or 3, this is 3-way, 4-way.
Well, we're only getting one extra point.
I want to do 4-way, 3-way.
We're only getting one extra point for the gammon. Oh, no, sorry, withdraw that.
4-way, 3-way, here the adjustment is 1.25. So we start at 2, and now we add 1.25. So this should also be a pass. Okay, which it is. Let's look at one adjustment of 1. So 5-way, 3-way is a factor of 1. Now we're at we evaluate the position at 2, and now our adjustment is 1. So this should also be a double, and it's a take. It's 3, which this is a close take. This is not perfect, but it sort of gives you the idea that this is actually take, and it would be the formula would give you a borderline take pass, or borderline pass on this, but it is a take. Let's look at another position. Let's look at 5 away, 4 away, which the adjustment is 0.25. That's 5 away, 4 away. So this is going to be a double and a take. Again, and that adjustment for the score, this is normally, this is not, this is not a double, or it's a borderline double. The adjustment for the score pushes it over just enough to give you the double. Let's look at 4 away, 5 away. And this is also double. The adjustment is a little bit higher. It's 0.5. And so that gives you, a slightly stronger double. And that's, this is unusual. The 4 away, 5 score is unusual. It's the only one where if you're in the lead at 4 away, you're going to double earlier than you would for money, even though your opponent is trailing. And it has to do with the I guess the efficiency of the gammon here for the 4 away, because 4 away doubled and a gammon is a win for the match. So, okay, let's look at some other positions and go over a few of those. Whoops, left it in here. Okay, so let's evaluate this position from Pratt's perspective and see what we come up with. We have basically nothing, maybe 0.1 for the race, -2. Position, we do 5 point, that was with 0.75, so we're at like 0.85. Threats, not much in the way of threats. There's a blot out here, we might be able to hit that. So, I would put this roughly at about a 1, maybe a little more than 1. So, and that's going to be, a no double and an easy take with a 1. Now let's look at a match score. If we're at 4 away, 2 away. And what do you think given that the adjustment is 1.5, what do you think this is going to be? Well, we evaluated this at 1 and the adjustment at 4 away, 2 away is 1.5. This is going to be about 2.5. And so this should be a double and a take. And that's what it is. And again, we can go through all the other examples. Let's look at a stronger position. And this is a double and a pass. So this is about a 3. And because it's a pass, so let's look at some match score adjustments. In this case, if we're at this score, obviously this is going to be a big pass. 4 away, 2 away. In fact, it's almost too good to double here because it's such a big pass. You're almost better off playing for the gammon here in this situation. But let's look at if we're behind. I'm sorry, no, if we're ahead here. Because this is about 3. Wrong one. And we're ahead. So let's look at if we are 5 away, 3 away, or 3 away, 5 away. Here at 3 away, 5 away, we're ahead, so we're gonna be subtracting from our score to get the right way, the right adjustment. And so we want to be as as the leader, we want to be much farther, much bigger advantage than the trailer in terms of deciding whether the cube, because if we get the, if we cube here and it turns around, now we're looking at a 4 cube coming back to us, and we've got a 2-point lead, and all of a sudden we're going to be down 2, and so that's the danger of that. So here, this evaluation is to roughly 3, and our adjustment is 1 to the negative. So this should be an adjustment of about 2, and this comes out to a this is a borderline no double take. So the adjustment, if you get the right evaluation here at 3, and then to adjust by 1 downward, then you'll come up with you'll be able to at least have a chance of getting the right evaluation for this score. Okay, any questions on that? Yeah, I mean, this is in terms of the complexity of these issues of the cube at different match scores. This is very simple and very effective. Now you do have to understand the Pratt system. You do have to be able to evaluate to get the right evaluation of whether you're at a 1, 2, or 3 position. But that's not always easy. But once you've done that, you can now adjust for the match score, and this is remarkably effective and remarkably easier compared to what everyone else does. What most people try to do. What most people try to do is figure out the winning percentages and the relative Gammon percentages and things like that, and do a lot of math in their head, and it's very hard to do. So this, I'll say, we'll go over some of the farther away scores, the ones that were asterisk, and how to do that. It's not perfectly accurate, but it gives you a chance. And if you can play this, you'll be competitive with the top players in terms of cube decisions. Once you understand this and how to do these adjustments, if you get reasonably confident in the Pratt method. So that's once again, I'll point out. Let me put that the inventor of this is this guy down here, David Presser, and he's 12, showing up 12th on Galaxy, and he actually now I would say everybody has difficulty with this. In fact, recently I was at the Vegas tournament. This guy Zednik, I forget how to say his last name. A brilliant player, the guy, Czech guy, was in the finals, and was playing brilliantly. His PR was about 2. Then he came to a cube decision late in the game, where he was being I don't know if he was being recubed or cubed, and he made an error of about which at the time we were looking at was about 0.6 error, which would put his PR from like 2 to 4. So even the top, and this guy's all these people are at genius level, at least in terms of backgammon. So even the top players will can make huge mistakes with and with this type of thing, with these cube decisions, particularly late in the game. So and the reason I point out that is this is David Presser. He's the guy that invented it, and he has the top. He is one of the top cube players in the game. So all that is kind of the Seldom method. Take a look at it. You can't do it without practicing it, but it really works. And I just went over the basic cube games in half an hour, and if you can do it and do it reasonably well, you can play with anybody on it. And, it took half an hour to explain, so. Okay, so that's it for the session, and we'll go to the